Yeah, I f***ed that up. That was my bad. Welcome back. How we doing? I screwed that up. So here's what happened. I was waltzing over here to get the stream ready today, and I go to tap the space bar to wake up the computer, and that hit the go live button, which then sent us live for a whole 4 seconds, I believe it was. But when I then turned off the live button, what ended up happening is that I couldn't go live to that video again. I just dribbled on my shorts. And when I say I did it, it was definitely the intern. Slap the like button. Welcome back to the Funker News Network. I'll be Ronnie. Or I am Ronnie, and I'll be your host again. I'll be Ronnie. That's an interesting one. I've said that before, though, haven't I? I'll be Ronnie. Typically, I'm Ronnie on most days. Some days I'm pretty grouchy. But what makes me not grouchy is meeting really awesome people. I want to talk a little bit before we get started too heavily tonight. I want to talk about some awesome people that I met recently. I'm purposefully wearing the shirt that I'm wearing, and I have purposefully placed things around the stream today. Something that's very important to us as a team, as a company, right? We are a company. We're a bunch of nerds. You're firing from the hip. Let me just be honest with you. I'm just going to be right out front. But something that matters to us very much is supporting and enabling with whatever means we have available, good people, good companies, good organizations. I had the chance, and most of you guys know this, to spend a long weekend at a place called the Sawmill. The Sawmill, run by Steve with their director of operations, Matt, were awesome people to hang out with. I got to learn a whole lot about the origins of the Sawmill, where it came from. But while staying there, I realized how poorly I plan for trips. Under most circumstances, when I'm away from home, I'm actually very, very well organized, right? I get all my stuff laid out, I fold it up, I'm much more organized away from home. Well, this time I was not on my trip to the Sawmill. I forgot coffee, I forgot sunscreen. You guys have seen the aftermath of the sunscreen thing on Instagram for those that are following over there. But there happened to be a bag of coffee at the Sawmill. Something that we've been looking for a very long time is a coffee company that we are ready and proud to support, right? There was a bag of coffee there from this smaller team called One Nation, and in the most there was no integrity with this at all. It was like 6 a.m. I didn't have any coffee. We were about to compete. I made a cup of it, right? It was out there. It's kind of a community area, and it was fantastic. So immediately I reached out to One Nation and said, hey guys, can I learn a little bit about you? We are proud, as of today, officially today, to represent One Nation Coffee. One Nation is Navy Special Warfare owned. They are that's right, man. They are a family-oriented, veteran and first responder-owned coffee company. We have started that partnership with them, and I can't tell you how excited that I am today to talk about that. In fact, let's take this in another layer. One of you guys out there reached out to me separately about my visit to the Sawmill and said, hey, our coffee was there. I am the head roaster. So the head roaster for this coffee company, One Nation, is out there in the chat with you guys right now. It's amazing how a community can come together, identify good companies, and, we at Funker 530 want to do nothing with our platform but inform people and help enable good companies. So let's talk a little bit about One Nation. So when I got on the first call with John is Navy EOD, so spent all of his time with Navy Special Warfare. They also have a more silent partner that has a law enforcement background. Their entire focus is on giving back with every bag. So every bag of coffee that you guys buy from One Nation, a portion of that is going to go to their in-house foundation. It's a 501c3 not-for-profit organization that they run in-house. These folks are supporting Boy Scouts. They are supporting. They just did some work up at Clemson, helping out college kids. They're not focused on any one demographic, and that goes back to the name of the coffee, right? Every so often, you just meet a company that you want to stand behind. And I picked a specific bag that they sent me, purposefully, 912, right? So when I was talking to John today, John is the founder. I was talking to John today, and you know, he was explaining. They sent me quite a few bags of coffee to try. I tried the Moab when I was out there, and I asked him about 912, and I said, you know, that's interesting. And why did you choose 912? And he said, well, look at the name, One Nation. So on 9/11, everybody was torn down. Everybody was upset, you know, confiding in themselves, you know, trying to figure out the best way to deal with a tragedy of that magnitude. On 9/12, the entire nation came together, and that's what they're hoping to do. You know, from a company perspective, is bring people together around coffee. That's the kind of brand, that's the kind of company that I am excited to support. I know I'm spending a lot of time on this, but we have been working very, very hard over the last, you know, couple days to figure out exactly how we can work with these folks. So at the top of the chat right now, there's a 20% off coupon. It's not going to last forever. That is for our partnership with them. So over the next 5 days, anything that you order over there, you get 20% off, Funker20. Please go and check that out. Go check them out on Instagram. These are good people. This is a good company. You know, run by the right kind of folks. Okay, that's it. That's all I wanted to make sure to cover there. I'm going to keep their stuff. You're going to see their stuff around. I have a cup of their coffee right here, but I've also got my bourbon, so I'm a little like on the fence of which one to grab. I might combine the two here in a little bit. We'll see what happens. We'll see where the chat takes us tonight. What do you say? 9/12 U.S. flags sold out, flying everywhere. Exactly. And that when he explained that to me, I said, "Holy crap, man! That's profound, dude. Right? It's profound." But I also love the fact that they have their own in-house foundation. That just speaks volumes. You know, from a company perspective, from an organization perspective, you know, as a company, to carve off a little bit of that margin every time you sell a bag of coffee to go towards a foundation is just something else to me. I vote combination. Hey, what's up, Ronnie? Oxide, how are you? What's up, boss? Let's see what else we got here. It'll be poop coffee. It's actually really good coffee. Like, I'm not kidding. I'm not a coffee snob, dude. I grew up on like a dripper, man. I use the same thing now. You know, we have members of the team that like to grind their own coffee, something, espresso bean, something. But it tastes good, man. It tastes good, and it's good company to stand behind, right? So those are the two things that I typically look for, and I'm here for it. We were all Americans after the towers fell. I wish that feeling lasted. Yeah, and in a state that we are like right now, name in our lifetime, name a time where we felt less divided as a group of individuals, as human beings, right? So for it, you know, not going to dive too far down that rabbit hole. I'll buy and judge for myself. Good, you should. That's exactly what you should do. Don't take my word for it. Just buy it, and if you like it, you like it. If you don't, that's fine. That's fine. A lot of folks really like to understand the company and the organization behind whatever it is they're buying as well. That's why I spent so much time on that. Finally caught you live. Welcome in, Xeon. We got a lot to get through today, and I didn't spend too much time on that. You know, I'll sit here and just talk about their coffee, you know, for the next 30 minutes if you guys continue to ask questions about it. Hey, Chris. So let's get started. We're going to talk a lot today. There's a big question in the title. Is Ukraine winning? And the reason I have that in the title is it's the stupidest question ever. Right? No. Yes. Really depends on how you look at it, to be honest with you. Let's talk about ground. What do Ukraine, Russia, and Denmark all have in common? I'm going to leave that open for just a second. Did you hear about the Canadian VA? Oh, yes. Yes, I guess we're all just going to die now. If you're not familiar with what he's talking about, I meant to make a video about this. A Canadian veteran was at the VA asking for a little bit of help, and just out of nowhere, the VA rep was just like, well, we could kill you. Okay. Well, I guess we'll just die. That's fine. Jeez. So what do Ukraine, Russia, and Denmark have in common? Let me pull up a map for you. Gonna pull up a map for you. Let me just find my mouse. There it is right there. Let's take a look at an interactive map here from the Institute for the Study of War. And I've been waiting for somebody to do this. I have been waiting for somebody to correlate the total ground exchanged between Ukraine and Russia since the beginning of the war. Well, Institute for the Study of War did it, and I'm extremely grateful for it because it provides a lot of insight. Check it out. So here's the current campaign map. Most of the people in this community were tracking from February 24th on the development of this. Russia, Ukraine, and Denmark all have in common square footage. Russia has lost the size of Denmark in total ground in Ukraine. Ukraine has gained the size of Denmark in total ground in Ukraine. We're going to talk about, casualties. I'm not going to give you specific numbers because they're impossible to nail down and dial in on. We're going to talk about total ground owned and lost. But even if you take the lowest end estimates from the most unbiased sources you can find, Russia, from a casualties perspective, has lost many, many, many more than Ukraine has. And we're talking about fighting capabilities, right? Or not capabilities. We're talking about, their ability to field, boots on the ground. So if you look at this from a total casualties perspective, yeah, you could probably make the argument that Ukraine is winning, but that's only part of the picture, right? So then let's talk a little bit about total ground that's been held. Well, since July 16th, if you recall, on July 16th or on or around July 16th, Russia announced that they were going to do what's called, operational pause, tactical pause, a timeout, a tactical timeout, if you will. Since that time, they have gained a total of 450 kilometers, which is about 170 some odd miles worth of ground. Most of that's going to be in the east over here, near Donetsk. So they took Severodonetsk, Lysychansk. They took, Pisky, Popasna. They took a lot of ground from a relatively rapid perspective leading up to July 16th. Since then, the amount of ground that they have gained has been negligible, with reference to what they had gained prior. Let's wheel back a little bit, though, right? Because we're looking at things from a very, we're kind of dialed in on one area. Let's wheel back to where Russia was March 21st. On March 21st, Russia had its deepest claws into Ukraine. They were within 25 kilometers of Kiev, if I'm not mistaken, in the north and northeast. They had surrounded Kharkiv, Sumy, Chernihiv. They were pressing further in the south towards Mykolaiv. They're gone from those areas. Those operations culminated, and they have now been pushed out of there. Russia has lost 45,000 kilometers squared of ground. That is roughly the size of Denmark since their deepest point, which was March 21st. That's not the whole picture either, though. The reason that it's so difficult to answer that question, Russia is, you can't look at this from a casualties perspective, from a ground perspective. You have to start to take into account the current status or the current state. Russia has announced that they are going to go into some form of a lull, if you will. Now, the justification for this is just mind-boggling. They said, we're going to do that because it'll help limit civilian casualties. Well, okay, I'll take you at your word. Why the f*** did you wait this long to do that? I'm going to tell you why. Because it didn't matter. It ultimately didn't matter to them whether or not they were incurring civilian casualties during this invasion, because their stated goal was to take over the entirety of Ukraine, force capitulation by assaulting Kiev, take back the entirety of the East, force a politically neutral and militarily dependent Ukraine with a reliance on Russia. They didn't care. The reason they're having to do that now is largely because they are unable to sustain the operational pace and the meat grinder that they're still being thrown into. I'm doing my very best to look at this as objectively as possible. Here's where the problem is for Ukraine with that situation, though. Ukraine, from a war of attrition perspective, is not going to be able to hold out at the same lengths that Russia is. So while, from an operational perspective, Ukraine has probably incurred less casualties, has taken back more ground, the current posture of Russia to really dig in, slow down offensive operations, and move further towards a war of attrition is against Ukraine's favor. That's where the situation begins to look a little bit bleak. So, yes, it was a clickbait title. Yeah, I absolutely clickbaited you. And the reason I did it is somebody yelled at me in the chat. I read the comments, guy. Like, I'm just a dude. I read the comments. Somebody in the comments asked about the MiG video that we posted and why we had the word kindergarten in it. Well, because it fired over a kindergarten. Like, that's why. If it was a bus stop, I would have said it was a bus stop. If it was a school of some other, I don't care if it was a high school, I'd have put that in there too. If it was a government building. Anyway, but I did clickbait you on this title because it's a stupid question. It's an important question to try to figure out, but there's no one answer to that. I'm going to check in on the chat here for a little bit. Psyops, thanks very much for the $10. Having seen photos of the Ukrainian army, I was hoping you might have some insight on how effective battle beards are. Extremely effective. There's a reason that the United States doesn't allow beards, and everybody says that it's because of your gas mask, or it's potentially because, professionalism or something. We just don't want to be that cool, right? We don't want to be that effective from a military perspective. There's a fear element to that as well. A wild man half naked with a bayoneted, M4 with a full beard looks much different than, without the beard. Thanks very much for the 10. Psyops, thanks for the 10 again prior to that. This 10 was fake FBI agent here. Care to explain your recent search history? What does Hot Bayraktar action, HIMARS fully loaded mean? That's going to be it for today, folks. Enjoy your night. We'll catch you guys next week. All right, we're back. Sorry. We got a lot to go through yet. JC, thank you for the $10. Finally got word from my homeboy Kev. He's safe. Oh, that's good to hear. Typical Ukrainian, he just wanted to walk about, or to talk about the book he's writing, latest archaeological dig. Thanks very much for the 10, Jay. Appreciate that. This message is held for review. I've seen that quite a few times. Mods, let's open it up a little bit. Let's be a little bit more open. Because, again, just for this stream, right? Then tomorrow you guys can start PP slapping again, all right? Because, again, the is Ukraine winning versus is Russia winning discussion is such a complex one to answer. And we don't know how many casualties each side has had, even from Ukraine's perspective. Ukraine could be reporting accurately. I'm sure there's somebody that's tracking it a little bit better. But even if Russia's not going to report that accurately, you can't tell me they are. Right? So from a casualties perspective, we can't really lean on that for a who's winning. From a ground perspective, if you look at it at face value, Ukraine's winning. They've taken back 45,000 square kilometers worth of area. But you can't only look at that. Right? You got to look at what's happened so far versus current state. I'm feeling spicy. Okay, fine. You guys can have fun. That's fine if you want to. This coffee's good, dude. This is only the second cup of coffee of theirs I've ever had. It's good. Yo, Funker, hope you're doing fine, my dude. Dude, I'm always good, man. Some of the days suck, but the grand scheme's going to be just fine. All right? That's kind of the way I go about day to day. Let's jump into the next thing that I've got here. I did talk about, I kind of jumped back and forth between talking points that I had. I wanted to talk about, who's winning versus not winning. Impossible discussion to have in my mind, right? I'm sure those that have more time to spend specifically and only on Ukraine can probably, take that discussion much, much further. Again, I am always looking at this from a very top level, 20,000 foot view. My perspective after following this, since the invasion and prior, but I don't spend the entirety of my day looking only at Ukraine footage. So there was a comment out there. Again, I read comments. There was a comment out there that mentioned blind spots that I have to Ukraine. You're absolutely right. If you come here and only here for the entirety of your Ukraine news, you're doing yourself a disservice. There are a lot of great streams that are out there that are bringing different pieces of insight and information to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. A lot of them are tracking that at a deeper level than we are. We have a much broader focus. Yes, we have talked about Ukraine the most. It is, from a gravity perspective, the most pertinent conflict that we have seen, at least in my lifetime as an adult. The gravity that comes along with Russia's invasion of Ukraine is, you really, there aren't words. Very heavy implications of this invasion, especially given the direction that Ukraine is trying to head. Somebody got into it with me on Twitter, and they said something akin to, that Ukraine is the third most corrupt country in the world. First of all, that's 2012 data from Ernst & Young, so it's over a decade old at this point. It is pre-Zelensky administration. I'm somewhat of a fan of his. I don't know a whole lot outside of what we've been focused on since the invasion. Again, face value there for me. I'm sure diving further and further down that rabbit hole, there might be different conclusions that people can come to. I'm a human. I, as an individual, have my own biases. We, as a team, are doing our best to stay as objective as possible with the footage we post. So, speaking of that footage, and before we get there, there's one more thing. I mentioned earlier a term, culminating. And a lot of, there are going to be a lot of folks out there that don't fully understand what I mean by that. So Russia's early invasion culminated. And what ended up happening when it culminated is Ukraine took that 45,000 square kilometers back. Culmination, from an operational perspective, is a very specific term, and it means something very specifically. I'm going to give you guys a link. If you want to leave me, go read this, paper from the Naval War College. You're more than welcome to. But here's what culminating means. Here's this link. Culminating is characterized as a point reached by attackers or defenders in terms of time and space after which stated objectives can't be accomplished, and continued efforts to reach them would significantly heighten the risk of failure or defeat. Russia's invasion is culminating in the East right now. It is that slowdown that we see where if they continue to press against the defensive resistance that Ukraine is putting forward, that is ultimately going to result in catastrophic loss of some kind. The same thing can be applied to their previous invasion, or their previous status in the north, in the northeast, and in the south. They withdrew and were pushed out of those areas because those operations at a tactical level culminated, right? Culmination and operational culmination is something that's important to understand. Let's jump into the footage. We've been talking now for 25 minutes. Anthony just bought some 912 coffee. I remember that day very well. That's awesome, man. Thanks for supporting One Nation, dude. Big fan. I'm a big fan of theirs. After talking with John, right? The coffee tasted great. It hit the spot for me out at the sawmill. But after talking with John, learning a little bit about the company, they've also been on Fox and Friends to talk about their company. Which, we'll be cutting up a version of that video. In fact, we can watch that video if you guys really want to. If I get enough if I get enough 9/12s in the chat, we'll watch John and his wife on Fox and Friends. It's about a 3.5, 4 minute video. Anyway, but after talking with him, I was just enamored you know, as an individual, from a company mission perspective, with their foundation work that they've got. Just amazing people. Ukrainian Soft's putting in work. You're not wrong. Let's jump in here to our Ukraine perspective footage for the day. Everybody should be tracking the Razor, not the Motorola Razor. Let me show you the Razor. I got to spend a little bit of time on a Razor. Razor vehicle. Right now, from a military application perspective, I'm not going to give you some fancy picture, but as soon as I show you this, you're going to understand what I mean. This is the Razor. From a soft perspective, soft oftentimes will use Razor from to be able to rapidly kind of move on to target. Well, Ukraine has their very own version. And it's coming up for you guys right here. 912, 912, 912. Good enough for me, man. We're going to watch that video right after this. And this is what happens when your mom tells you you have Razor at home. There's just something about Ukraine and technicals, whether it be a buggy or a what is it, a BMW? We've seen Toyotas so far. There's just something about Ukrainian technicals that hits different than your standard Hilux with a Dishka on top of it. I mean, there's been plenty of Dishkas on the top of Ukrainian stuff. It just hits different, right? Let's take a look at a video of One Nation. You guys get the chance to meet John. Now, I'm not personally a fan of Fox and Friends, but John did a great job explaining a little bit about his company's origins here. You know, again, I've had the chance to speak with John quite a bit over the last couple days. Fantastic dude, fantastic company. Check this out. I'm going to scroll forward in the video. That way we can kind of get right to John rather than their intros. Here you go.
Well, One Nation Coffee was founded by veterans and first responders. Myself, I'm Navy EOD and I've had a career in Navy Special Operations. My childhood friend, Philip, he's with Charleston County Sheriff's Department. And our good friend, Neil Johnson, he's a Navy veteran as well. He served and deployed on nuclear submarines. So with that as a background and a passion for coffee, we had a desire to start a coffee company for guys like us, people that love America, and also not only to produce good coffee, roast good coffee, but we wanted to have a purpose by it. By the grace of God, I'm still alive today, and we wanted to be able to give back and help serve those that have served us and protected us. So that's why we have a portion of our proceeds go to support veterans and first responders.
That's John. That's John. Again, you know, I feel privileged to have had the chance to just chat with him. So, you know, seeing us partner up with them from a company perspective is just that one's a feels good. The next video we got coming up here, I see somebody with an attitude in the chat. Klitzkrieg, if you don't like it, you can watch something else, bro. I don't care. It's fine, man. You know, I appreciate you guys for spending some of your night with us here. It matters. It matters very much, and you don't have to watch though. If you'd prefer to watch something else, you're welcome to. Let's jump into the next piece of footage that I've got here. We've got Ukrainian air defense coming up. Specifically, this is a, what is it, Buk M1? You know, once again, doing really good with the pronunciation. Coming up for you guys here. The specific aircraft that this is shooting down is unspecified. It's kind of just shooting off into the distance. They do cut to a follow-up video that is supposed to confirm that that was the specific aircraft that it shot down. you know, obviously I can't validate that.
З Днем Незалежності, Україна!
Book M1. Okay. Book M1. The next video was the one that had the follow-up footage. Yeah, so this next video is, and if you're not familiar with what's kind of going on, supposedly that was a drone that was shot down. I'm getting these two videos mixed up. Supposedly that was a drone that was shot down, and if you're not familiar with what's kind of happening with Russian drone supplies, they're now reliant on Iran to provide them, like, in the hundreds of drones. Supposedly those are going to be the Shahed, which is actually somewhat of an increase from a capabilities perspective. But we reported on the Iranian drone kind of deal that was in the works between Russia and Iran a few months ago. So let's jump into the next one. So the next one has that end state footage, and these are 9K 338 Iglas. This is a man-PADS, man-portable air defense system. And there's something like a never-ending irony of seeing a Soviet system targeting Soviet systems. Kind of hard to explain that. So here's that supposed aftermath footage I was talking about. All right, coming up. Checking in on the chat and the support. That meme, thanks for the $10. Keep up the good work, Ronnie. I'm a very small part of this whole thing, man, but I appreciate it very much. I see Funker over there in chat play mod. Is he? What's up, Funker? You out there swinging around the Funker stick? Bless you, 530 boys. Hope you guys will at least be able to get a coffee off a tenner. We sure will, man. I appreciate it very much. Let's jump into our next one that we've got here. We're going to talk a little bit about Russian... Well, I'm going to show you a little bit about Russian dispersion. Dispersal? Dispersion? I guess it's more of like a general lack thereof. So, forced dispersion, whether or not... Here's the problem with the situation in Ukraine, right? I'm not holding, Russia... I personally can't hold Russia accountable for anything. I'm a guy that makes videos on the internet about videos on the internet. But even a green weenie like I it's been ingrained in us to spread the out. Right? We're gonna watch two videos back to back here. Here's the problem: there's no real front line in Ukraine anymore with the introduction of these small drones that can really extend the forward line far beyond where there's any personnel on the ground. The poor guy on the litter. Look at homie on the litter, guys. So if you're wondering what's kind of going on here, let me walk you through this. So you've got a Russian aid and litter team that's it appears to be working through an evac here. You know, this is YouTube friendly. I shouldn't say safe. YouTube friendly. It was kind of far enough off target that hopefully the majority of that primary, at least, fragmentation from that mortar didn't land. But they just scattered after that. He appears to be ambulatory. All right, let's check the next one. So we're not done. We're not done talking about dispersion. Coming up for you guys now. Did you start late? No, I actually screwed things up today getting started. I'll back brief you guys. Oops, wrong button. I'll back brief you guys on that fiasco again in a second. Here you go. I'm gonna kill the music on this one. I've kind of had enough of it. Thanks, Don. All right, coming up. So that was what I had picked out for us to review from a Ukraine footage perspective. Now what I want to do is take a look at some Russian footage perspective. We're going to see a cruise missile system that we haven't really looked at before. We have, I think, just not really from a capabilities perspective. Specifically, this is going to be the KH-59 TV-guided cruise missile. I want to say it goes by the name of the OVOD, OVOD. I'm sure you guys will tell me how poorly I'm pronouncing that. Let's take a look at this. It's a compilation of this guided cruise missile, of these guided cruise missile strikes. Coming up for you now. And it is TV guided, so I don't know. What's the best way to explain that? Somebody's watching a screen and controlling it. It's not technically a guided cruise missile outside of somebody controlling its destination based on what they see on a screen. No audio for this one. You know, quite honestly, I'm surprised that the majority of these look like military targets. Not kidding. When I first watched that, I expected it to all be like apartment buildings and such. There's about a 200-kilometer range on the KH-59, just in case you're wondering from a capabilities perspective. We've got some footage here of Russia destroying an M777. Most should be familiar with the M777 here, but if you're not, it's a 155 towed artillery piece somewhere north of 100. It's actually kind of a big question mark at this point, have been provided to Ukraine. Anytime Russia destroys a Western weapon system of any kind, it's like the most breaking news story you could imagine. It's towed artillery. Coming up for you guys now. There's like hundreds of these in Ukraine right now. Not listening to that music. Get a little bit closer view here. See if I can pause it at the right time. There's that one. There's that 777, and these are 777-82s, right? So the difference with the 777-82s, and we've talked over the last couple streams about the Excalibur, which is a high precision 155 munition that's been provided to Ukraine. The M777A2 is what was, at least from a majority perspective, provided, which does have the capability to fire the Excalibur. There were a lot of people, a lot of trolls, saying something akin to, they weren't even given the good one, the A2 that has the ability to fire Excalibur. There was like a video in Ukraine of them taking a close-up of the serial number on the side that said very clearly M777A2. So they do have those. The amount and the variation of how many non-A2 variants that they have versus how many A2 variants they have, I don't know that anybody knows that. In fact, the latest graphic I came across that talked about all the different weapon systems that the United States had provided to date had a question mark next to the A2s, or next to the M777s. We're in the hundreds, or well over 100. The last time I was actually tracking an accurate number, it was like 109. There was a lot. Psyops, thanks for the 10. You can't spell Bayraktar without tractor. Has there been any updates from the Ukrainian Agricultural Mechanized Division? The 1st Farmers Brigade hasn't posted an update in a bit. I'm sure they're still pretty active, though. Thanks very much for the 10. I love seeing those happy farmers looking like giddy school kids. Free stuff, man. There's nothing better than free 99, and especially when it's a tank. I made a short video on my little baby. So Funker Actual, recently got a tractor, and that's all he talks about. His tractor and his chickens, right? All of us are like hard at work preparing the stream, preparing the content, and he's like, hey guys, I got like 5 more eggs out of my chickens. That's all he talks about, is his tractor and his chickens. I've got a lawn tractor. It's John Deere. It's like a D160 or something. Anyway, moving on. So we got some footage of Wagner here. For those of you that aren't familiar with Wagner, spelled Wagner, but I did confirm with the experts that it is pronounced Wagner. There was a time that they thought about squaring off, Pepperidge Farm remembers this, that they thought about squaring off with the U.S. forces. It didn't go well. I think there's a reason for that. Is that a map? I haven't watched all this one, so we're kind of watching this together. Is that a map? It looks like a map. Okay.
Формирование воюющей на стороне Украины. Она была с боем, вы вокруг видите, она была с боем захвачена, освобождена, точнее, музыкантами, которые здесь дислоцируются. Вот это все музыканты прошли.
Okay, so a bunch of you are going to call me a Fed for this, and that's fine, whatever, right? I don't care. I have previously supported a geointelligence agency. It was for I don't do geoint stuff, squint stuff. I don't, but I can tell you with 100% certainty that they just geolocated themselves. 100% certainty. I don't have to be a squint to tell you that. Right. What geospatial analysts are able to do with just an image is amazing. So imagine this video trying to find where Wagner is on a map. What was it? The Tulpan? The Tulpan got wrecked A headquarters location got wrecked. And I think, to be honest with you, Wagner's been behind a lot of this. Now that I think of that headquarters that got attacked, I'm pretty sure it was like a Wagner guy that posted the photo. Or it was a reporter or something. I don't know. What starts to get weird is there's like this whole niche of like, you know, even Americans that idolize Wagner. These dudes are not, you know, that upper tier from a capability perspective. They are not. We've spent months staring at this stuff. But there's like this whole cult following behind Wagner. Anyway, back to the video.
Это все было под контролем. То, что мы видим практически до горизонта, это все было под вот эти 3 трубы тоже. Они находятся от них еще 5 километров примерно до линии соприкосновения на 24 февраля 2022 года. То есть прошли до тех труб, прошли сюда, теперь уже идет...
What's he pointing at? I'm sure it describes it in here, but just to me, it looks like he's just pointing in a general direction. They fired an ATGM, and then they just, you know, showed their hand-drawn map. There's nothing wrong with a hand-drawn map, all right? You know, I've done it before, sand table type stuff. I get it. Nothing wrong with that. They also happened to geolocate themselves with the video, but then they were just, you know, there's stuff that away. I don't know, man. But I told you guys we were going to have a Russian perspective section of every show, all right? And I'm trying to hold up to that promise. I am, man. There you go. All right, we're jumping into our non-Ukraine section here. And I've only got a couple videos that I wanted to look at here. The very first is an MQ-9 Reaper went down recently. And that MQ-9 Reaper went down near Benghazi. There have since been a couple of strikes. There have since been a couple of strikes in response to this in Syria. Let's take a look at that Reaper going down. What's the name of the coffee company? One Nation. One Nation. Check the description and the pinned comment above for some links and some codes for you guys. Watch that again. Your bullets didn't work again last Tarkov, Ronnie? Tell me about it, dude. I must not have gotten that good version of Tarkov that everybody else got. Seem to click on somebody's face. Then they shoot me in the peener and I die. It's like perpetual... Tarkov is a lot like real life. I'm going off on a tangent here for a second. Tarkov's a lot like real life. So in Tarkov, you start getting backhanded in the no-no area quite a bit. And it sucks. It sucks real bad. I quit playing Tarkov like 4 times before I stuck with it. But just like in real life, eventually you start to enjoy it. They got the realism right. Let's jump into the next one here. So we're actually going to take a look at some discretion advised, up to a certain point here. Discretion advised. I've said it. I'll say it again. Viewer discretion advised. We're going to take a look at body-worn camera footage of a Sacramento hostage rescue team. HRT was called to respond to an individual, I believe his name is Isaiah Gardner. Isaiah was holed up in his house, presumably with his family, holding them hostage with a samurai sword. And HRT wasn't just going to let that happen. So what I need to do is scrub the video here, get to right there. That's where we want to be. Because it's like a 10-minute long video. We're not watching the whole 10 minutes.
Isaiah, talk to me. Isaiah, what are you doing?
Yeah, Lincoln 8, we can hear it. We're on the phone with him.
Isaiah, talk to me. You can take out your frustration and anger on me. Don't focus it on.
I believe in God, and I believe in God!
Okay, Lincoln 8, he's yelling at her. It sounds like he may be attacking her. Stand by.
So basically what they had been doing up to this point is you heard the negotiator trying to talk to Isaiah, saying to de-escalate, saying, hey, point your aggression at me. At this point of the video is where they determined that the risk was too high from, a victim perspective, and they're about to order HRT to assault. Probably the wrong term to use for that.
Isaiah,
But you know what I mean.
you're
Launch.
scaring the kids. You don't have to do this.
Hey, strip picture. White feet, white feet, white feet, white feet, white feet. Key. Affirm. We're moving now. Ran it.
Ram!
The other way. ACL. On me. Right here. Ram. Police!
Back up.
Yep.
So, discretion advised.
On the ground.
All right. That's it though. We're not going to rehash that. I will tell you that he survives. So immediately after engaging, the HRT officers employed a tourniquet on his leg specifically, and he has since been charged. Didn't he survive afterwards? Correct. Yes. Yes, he did. What happened here? I'm late. So that was in Sacramento. Sacramento hostage response team was called to a location where an individual by the name of Isaiah Gardner was holding his family hostage with a samurai sword. At one point in the negotiation, they understood the necessity and the risk being too high relative to the victims, and I want to say it was like a daughter and maybe a wife. You can kind of hear two voices there. But they identified that the risk was too high to the victims, and chose to move in and kind of work to rapidly de-escalate. What would be the appropriate way to say that without being too cold about it? What something that you always have to balance in shows and stuff like this is, every word matters. Every word that you say, somebody can take it and they can peel it apart. I've had somebody come back to us with like the underlying meaning of a word when it was originally, I guess, invented. And we're like, well, did you know that? No, I didn't. Anyway, so HRT moves in. They engage the suspect, end up hitting him in the leg there in those couple shots. They employ a tourniquet on him. He was taken to the hospital. He survives and has since been charged. Big artery in your legs? Absolutely. You got the femoral artery there. All right, so what I want to do is we've got a little bit of extra time on the tail end today. We haven't done a Trending Tuesday or a Trending Thursday in a while. So most of you will have watched the majority of this at this point because we have reviewed all of these on the show so far. But for those that weren't here Tuesday or haven't seen some of these, we're going to go through the top 5 trending videos on the Appen website over the last 7 days. So number 5 is one that we watched a little bit earlier, and that is the man-pads knocking down Russian aircraft. We watched this one just a little bit ago. Bringing that up for you guys now. Here you go, full screen. Killing the music. I'm sorry. Off the hook, I'm going to respond to that in just a second. I caught your question there. All right, bringing it up. So there was a question out there that I actually do kind of want to respond to here. I was able to catch it. Sometimes the chat just moves a little too fast for my dumb brain to keep up with. But this question here. So what do you guys think? Blowing the dam would look horrible on the world stage, right? Correct. It would definitely kill thousands of civilians. Is it worth it for the shock attack on Kherson? No. Here's why. And we've talked about similar situations like this in the past, specifically surrounding the attack on Alexander Dugin's daughter from an example perspective, right? Or as an example, I should say. Ukraine has done a really great job getting the world stage from at least a broad scale perspective, from a political perspective, from a reputation perspective on their side. Doing something like that, regardless of the tactical or operational gain that would come with it, is too much of a catalyst or potential for that from a world stage perspective to turn the opposite direction. So while it might provide that operational benefit, purposefully doing something to target that many civilians, I framed that probably in the poorest way that you could imagine. From, is our support going to go away? Doing that in the first place, understanding and knowing that it's going to kill thousands of civilians is a no-go, right? But B, the justification behind the scenes from that is the world that starts to turn the world away from supporting Ukraine, and they need every bit of support that they can get. Does that make sense? That's probably what I'd say to targeting the dam. All right, bringing it back. So that was our number 5 most watched video with almost 30,000 views on the site. It's a lot. Number 4 is the MQ-9 Reaper shoot down over Benghazi. There have been a couple different strikes, some chopper strikes most recently that ended up destroying like a couple vehicles, launcher that was assumed to be used, or that was believed to have been used in this attack. Here you go. All right, coming back up. So let's take a look at the number 3 most trending video. And this time what I'll do is I'll go back to the home page and I'll show you guys how to do this yourself. So this is the home page. Click on trending at the top, and it's already set to 7 days. So the number 3, well, this is already reset. You guys want to watch Excalibur or the... Let's watch Excalibur. While we've been doing this, the total numbers have changed. Let's watch Excalibur. So what we're going to see here is U.S. provided Excalibur rounds targeting, I want to say a radar vehicle. Let me scroll down here to the analysis. Yeah, 1L261 radar vehicle. Coming up for you guys now. Here you go. Mosen, thanks for the 5. Ukraine can't compete with the Russian bouncy castle decoys. Do not get me started on the inflatables in Russia. Thank you very much for the 5, but don't get me going. All right? Just stop it. Thank you for the 5. All right. Coming back up. Let's take a look at number 2. So this one was a wild video to watch. What we're going to see here is Ukrainians and Russians essentially in a really intense close-range firefight. And I want to point you guys... We did this Tuesday, and I'm gonna do it again here. I'm going to point you guys to this video directly because Josh's analysis to this video, his write-up, is profound. And it's just click on it, click on the analysis tab, go check it out. We'll watch the video here now. Wacky, wavy, inflatable Russia Max air defense system. That's what that was. Yep. Saw this on Enforcer Stream. Yep, we looked at this one on Tuesday. We're covering the top viewed on our website and app.
Отход. Ап! Отход!
All right, coming up. So on the website, there's a whole bunch of comments, that are, saying something akin to the stuff that we've said before in other videos, which is just firing into the trees. You have to be able to recognize the incoming there. There's a lot of it. That is a two-way range, and somebody would have shat my pants at that point. So let's move on. So our number 1 most watched video on the app and website, we actually haven't reviewed here. We've got a Not Safe for Work video. This is coming from the Hilo Police Department in Hawaii. It is body-worn camera footage of an officer-involved shooting that took place sometime after a 911 call about a man harming himself with a knife. I'm going to need to scrub this video just to find out where my where everything is. That way I can give you guys, the appropriate heads up and discretion. All right, we're just going to watch it straight through. Here you go.
Sir, put the knife down. Put the knife down.
I want to reiterate. Discretion advised.
Sir, put the knife down! Put the knife down! Put the knife down! I will shoot you if you do not put the knife down! Do you understand me? Put the knife down. Take one more step. I'm shooting you.
That's it. Yeah, we're not watching any more of that. But I'll give you guys the link if you want to go and watch it. That's on the site. Here's the reason that we post that stuff, right? We're not a gore site. We're not. That's not part of the mission. That's not what we do. But me personally, the reason I personally, worked very hard to get into Funker's good graces and be a part of the team. I was tired of seeing 10 seconds worth of clips, right? Short, non-contextual clips with a narrative built around those. Here on this stream, I, as a human being, have my own biases, right? If you don't want to watch the stream, you don't have to. It's fine. The stream, for as much as I love it, and for as much as I look forward to it every time we go live, it's just a very small part of what we do. If you want to see the raw footage, if you want to see it in its entirety from a contextual perspective, that's what the site's here for. Okay? That's why we host this stuff. So there's all those comments, that we consistently see across the board, show this one or show that one. Why didn't you show this one? There's a reason we didn't post the video of a Ukrainian man being castrated. I watched it. We evaluated it. It's not combat footage. It's not use of force footage. It's not helpful. All right. So it was important for us to talk about and help people understand that it happened, but we're not a gore website. It's not what we do. Guy got too close. He did. He did. The officer gave him a lot of warning ahead of that. All right, guys, that's going to probably be it to close us out. What I want to do is I want to just hang out for a little bit. Maybe I didn't ask you guys yet. I'm sure you guys have already let me know. But if you're in the chat and you're new here, let me know where you're chiming in from, general roundabouts, because it's so cool for us to see how widespread the community is. Me, from just a personal perspective, I love to see a group of all people, all nationalities, all ethnicities, all religion come together over, the topic of just trying to see the world for what it is. Whether it's good or it's bad footage that day, that's what we're here to do, is review it. I wish we had a little bit more time to go through everything that we post, but it's really only about 10, 15% of what we post on a day-to-day basis. We get the question all the time on YouTube, can you guys post this footage? And it's available on the website. Can you post that footage? It's available on the website. I can't tell you how much we need you to be jumping over there. I can't reiterate that enough. The reach on all of our videos, we used to have an excellent reach. We used to reach almost the entirety of our community anytime we posted a video. It's been squashed across all platforms. But that's why we have our own. Let's see where we've got here. We've got Belgium. You're in Tarkov. Good luck, my friend. I won't be in there for you to kill me tonight. We're going to play squad tonight after this stream. Down the road, Mosin, Oregon. I got family in Oregon. It's awesome. Well, in-law family. North Carolina, Raleigh. Trailer Park. That's where I grew up, dude. Alberta, Canada. Michigan. North Ohio. England. At the bar down the street having a double whiskey. Save one for me. I'm on my way. Guys, that's it for us. I do need to speak just one more time about our partner, One Nation. One Nation is an excellent coffee company. If you're looking for a veteran and first responder-owned coffee company to stand behind, to drink in the mornings or in the evenings, I'm turning into my parents. I used to make fun of them for drinking coffee in the evening. Now, I kind of look forward to it. I typically have a cup before the stream, but by the time the stream's ready, I'm eyeballing my bourbon here. But we had both tonight. One Nation... John, the founder, the entire team out there, they're amazing people. John himself has a background in Navy Special Warfare, EOD more specifically. They've got their own foundations. Every bag of coffee you buy from them is going to go towards that foundation, supporting veterans and their families. If you guys, for the next 5 days only, and the code won't be around forever, but our partnership's not going to stop after the next 5 days. use the code Funker20. Get 20% off. Go try the coffee at least. Use that 20% off discount to go try the coffee. Give it a shot. And I think you're going to find a great company to stand behind. I'm out of here. We'll see you guys over on the other stream. It's going to automatically send you over there anyway. And enjoy Hyperdrive on the way out and stay in full.